I am the girl who talks about the ICOC ruthlessly. No, I'm joking. Not ruthlessly. Hello everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I am Tina Marie J. We have not talked about the ICOC on this channel in quite a while. Today I actually received a message from someone. She is a part of the ICOC and she left for a little while because she was in college, and then she came back to the church, the one true Church of Christ. So she basically just sent me this message telling me how she wants to leave, but she's afraid to leave. She feels like she's alienated from the outside world. She feels lonely and she needed some advice. I know I've talked about my experience so many times in this channel. I just want to basically speak to people who are in this woman's position, whether you're in campus or you're in married or singles. If you feel like you are alienated from the rest of the world and you feel guilty just to even almost associate with anyone on the outside, if you're feeling lonely and if you feel like you want to leave because you want your life back, this is what she expressed to me, was that she wants her life back. And I could tell by the text that she was sending me, she just wants to live her life and she wants to continue with her faith, but she feels like she has to choose between being in the ICOC or being with the enemy, being of the world, and all of that stuff that they teach you. Just know if you're in that situation, you are not the only one. There's so many people out there that I've spoken to that have felt the same way. And no one really knows that you feel this way because, of course, in that church, you don't tell anyone. I mean, how are you going to tell someone? It's not easy to tell anyone what you're going through without them feeling like you need to do some sort of spiritual classes, some Bible studies, something that will make you feel like you're unclean emotionally. Like, why did I ever express myself to the disciples or to leaders in the first place? That's what I'm here for, basically. I know exactly how that feeling is. Now, here's my advice. First of all, if you are afraid to leave a church because you're afraid of going to hell, you need to stop and think. Like, seriously, stop and think about that right there. What church will allow you to be afraid? Afraid that if you leave this church that you're gonna go to hell. That alone needs to be the one, not even a clue, that's just an in-your-face thing that's saying you're in the wrong church. Some people don't like to use the word cult. I personally feel like if the shoe fits, then you freaking wear it. I will be the one to say ICOC is definitely a cult. They run themselves as a cult. I don't want to say every single church a part of the ICOC or the COC or the ICC is a cult, but a majority definitely are. Even if we don't use the word cult, let's just throw that word out the window for a minute. Let's just say it's not a cult, it's just a very demanding church. Okay, it's still wrong and you still should not be a part of something like that, because if you feel inside like there's something wrong and you feel like, I want to be a part of this thing, I really want to do what I feel is right or what they say is right for God and what God wants from me, but I just do not feel right on the inside. I feel depressed, I feel lonely, I feel alienated, I feel anxious, I just don't feel right. Then you really need to take a step back. You need to think to yourself, should I be here? Should I continue to allow myself to be in this church? Should I allow myself to be exposed to this type of doctrine when it's really just messing me up internally? No matter what your religion is, even if you're not religious, you should just never in your life, never feel stuck. You should never feel like you have to be one certain way, and if you're not, then it's all doomed. That should never be an issue in anyone's life. When I was a part of the ICOC, I did feel that way. I definitely felt that way. I left the church going on 3 years now, actually. When I was in the church for 7 years, the whole 7 years, I didn't feel right. In the beginning, you know, you go through that honeymoon stage, that little spiritual honeymoon stage, you get baptized, you're like, woo, I'm a disciple, I'm saved. You go around telling your friends, you're excited, you're wearing shirts to say, I love Jesus all the time. Yes, I love Jesus. But then you start to see your life is not yours anymore, and they tell you that. They tell you your life does not belong to you. I mean, that's what they told me. Anytime I would express that I felt like I couldn't do things the way I normally would do it. Not anything sinful, just just kind of breathe a little without someone always having to know my business or someone always having to supervise everything I do in my life or the moves I make in my life. Anytime I did express that to anyone in the church, they would say, well, your life is not yours anymore. You gave your life to Christ, and we're here to help nourish that. That's just what they say because, I mean, hello, if you're in a cult, if you're in a demanding church and they want to make sure that you're pruned and prepped and molded and shaped, they have to feed you the bull crap. They have to feed it to you on a beautiful silver or even a gold platter. This is what a lot of churches, not even just the ICOC, but many churches do this, and people, they allow themselves to be exposed to this because they feel so strongly about their faith. They feel so strongly about their religion, and there's nothing wrong with feeling strong about your faith or religion, but what's wrong is when you feel so strongly about it that you allow other people in a church community to cause you to feel like you have to second guess yourself and you have to doubt yourself and you have to live in fear. You should never have to live in fear no matter where you are, no matter what church you go to. So when I left, it was the most scariest thing. And I know it sounds so dramatic. If you were not a part of a church like the ICOC, then you won't really get why this is scary. But it was, for me, one of the most scariest things I've ever had to do was to leave. I swear to you, I literally remember the day that I said to myself, I even wrote it down. I was like, Tina, you're leaving and you're not coming back. And I was so scared because I was going back and forth with that decision. I didn't just one day wake up and say, I'm not going to church on Sunday. As a matter of fact, I'm not going back at all. No, that's not what I did. What I did was I made a list of pros and cons. Leaving or staying, I thought, okay, if I leave, what do? I could find a new church. If I leave, is God going to leave with me? Is God going to still be in my life? And these are things that I had to really think about and evaluate over and over again in my mind before I finally had the guts to just say, okay, you know what, that's it. I'm leaving. I'm not staying here no more. That right there is really hard to do. And I understand that fear. That fear of leaving a church like the ICOC is very, very serious for some people, for most people. And I was one of those people. And when I left, it wasn't easy breezy. I went through a little depression, not a major depression, but I went through a bit of depression. The best way I can actually express how I felt to you guys, I felt like I was naked and someone just took me and threw me outside into a neighborhood I've never been in, and it was like, go fend for yourself in the cold and go find clothes and find a way to adjust into the world on the outside. That's literally how I felt. And I just was like, who's gonna pray with me? Who's gonna help me? Who am I gonna talk to? Who's gonna supervise my every move? Who's gonna tell me if I should accept a job or a promotion? Who is gonna be there for me when I need someone, when I feel like I'm falling short in God's grace? That was my thoughts. And it's crazy because I didn't want to have to report to anyone anymore. I didn't want discipling partners. I wanted to be able to have the freedom to say, no, I don't want to talk to you about my business because this is something I want to deal with on my own, or in my marriage. I want to deal with my relationship on my own. I wanted to have that choice, that free will, to be able to decide for myself if I want to talk to somebody and seek advice, seeking permission, really. I wanted to have that opportunity to at least decide. But then as soon as I left, I was afraid, because what happens is that when you're in this church, they make you depend on them, on the disciples in the church so much. They make you feel like you have to rely, you have to depend. While you're doing the studies in the beginning, they slowly but very gradually strip away the pieces of your identity and the parts of you that says, I have a right to make decisions in my life for myself. I have a right to control certain things for myself. They take that away to the point where by the time you decide to finally leave, you forget how to depend on yourself. You forget how to rely on yourself. You forget how to trust yourself. And that was what I went through. When it comes to the alienation, I felt very alienated when I was in the church. So I could definitely relate to anyone like this woman that sent me a private message when she said she felt alienated. She went to college. She was exposed to some, actual friendships, to some real people who act like real people and imperfect people. And then she went back to the church and they pull you back in and they're like, you don't want to go that way because that way is a bad way. That's not a good way. don't be around those people. Don't be a part of those type of communities or those type of churches or those type of groups. You need to be in this church because this is the only one. They will not say it in those exact words, but in so many other words, they will definitely say it like that. So the alienation can run very deep because what happens is that you are surrounded by a bunch of phony fake people. Like, let's just put it out there. I don't know how else to say it. And not everyone in the ICOC, not every member. I know some members still who are actually really cool and really, really honest and real people. But most of the people that you're surrounded by compared to people on the outside are very fake. And see, yeah, they can say things like, oh, well, people on the outside, they want to do their own thing, they want to live in sin, this and that, there's all this stuff going on the outside. All right, yeah, there is, but at least they're living in the truth with that. Like, they're not pretending to be something they're not all the time. When I was in the ICOC, I was surrounded by people who were pretending to be my friend. They were pretending so that they could get something out of me. And what they wanted out of me was to earn a freaking reward so that they got some brownie points to move up a level. Like, hey, look at me, I'm in the leadership and look who I just converted. Look how I changed this person. She was struggling, but look how great she's doing ever since I started discipling her. This is what they want. They want to keep moving up that ladder. If you allow yourself to be exposed to the real world on the outside, whether you're in college, even in the work environment, they want you to be really careful with who you're around and who you allow yourself to have as company. Because when you're in the ICOC, everyone has the same frame of mind, the same, not every single one. I try to be very careful with my words. Majority, they have a very similar state of mind, and they're taught to think the same way. So there is no individuality. It's frowned upon. You won't be looked at as this great high spiritual leader that people could look up to. You're more the person that, oh, you need to be careful with her. She be doing her own thing. You want to be careful. You don't want to be too close to her or that brother. You want to be careful with him, not to be too close. They don't want you to be close to people who are themselves, who are raw within themselves, like the people on the outside world. You go to work, you go to school. The people you're around the outside world are raw within themselves, and they don't want that. And this is why you feel so alienated. Here you are, dying to come out of yourself, dying to be yourself, dying to just be true to yourself and say, this is who the hell I am, but you're being told, no, you gotta be like us because, hello, ring-a-ding-ding, you wanna get to heaven, don't you? When it comes to loneliness, that also is where loneliness comes from. The alienation, and then from there comes the loneliness. And when I was in the ICOC, I did have my moments where I felt very lonely because even though I had what I thought were friends in the church, there were some points where I just was like, you know what, these people are really cool, but we just don't, these are not the type of friends I would typically make. But I thought they were the best type of friends for me to have because I thought, well, I need to have friends who are spiritual, friends who are going to help me get to heaven. So I did feel that loneliness because I just did not feel like I could be myself. I couldn't be Tina. I couldn't talk like Tina. I couldn't act like Tina. People will look at that and say, oh, well, you just want to sin. You just want to do whatever you want to do. No, I just want to be a human being who doesn't have to walk on eggshells pretending to be somebody I'm not. And that is a problem, and that could cause you to feel lonely because you are like the black sheep. You are now the only person, or you at least feel like you're the only person who is just dying to jump out of your own skin, dying to jump out of yourself and to be yourself. When you're surrounded by all these freaking fake people who are like, no, you need to be like us. That's going to cause you to feel lonely. And that is also why a lot of people don't want to leave the church. Maybe you want to leave the church, but you're afraid to leave the church because you're afraid that you're doing something wrong and you're the only one and no one else feels what you feel. No one else experiences or thinks about the things you think about in the church. And so if you leave and everyone else stays in the church, then it's like, well, look at that person. Look at what they're doing wrong. They're a fall away. And so now you're looked at as like this negative person. You're looked at in this negative light as someone who's done something so bad. When in reality, It's not that you did anything bad. It's that you did your own thing. You made your own move. And if you are going to be a part of the ICOC, you cannot make your own move. You cannot be an individual. You can't be yourself. You can't make your own move. You can't make your own decisions. You have to be willing to completely let that go. If you want to be a successful ICOC member, I should make a video about how to be a successful ICOC member. If you want to be a successful ICOC member, you're basically going to have to let go of who the hell you are and be who the hell they want you to be. I know that when I speak, I know that sometimes I say things and it comes off really blunt and maybe a little bit unfiltered, and I just like say it how I think it. Trust me, I filter a hell of a lot in my mind when I'm making these videos. I definitely am, but I don't know how else to say it so that people will understand, because I, unlike the ICOC members, am not fake. I also don't believe in putting people down. When I speak about the ICOC, I'm not bashing the ICOC. I'm clearly stating facts. And if these were not facts, then a bunch of people wouldn't be agreeing with me. And I'm not saying this at all to brag. People will come on here and say, oh, you don't have facts. Hello, do you not look in the comment section? Clearly there is a problem. Now, the truth of the matter is that, cult or no cult, this church needs to either change, or it needs to respect the fact that not everyone wants to live their life like they're a child. Like, you know, with children, you teach them because they don't know any better. But when you're an adult, we're not meant to be held and tied down or boxed in. We are not meant to be that way. We're not built for that. Some of us end up being taught to be built for that. Through childhood or even in relationships, we end up being taught how to be submissive to other people and to believe everything someone else says, to be naive and gullible to things that other people tell us. But that's not who we really are. We're not meant to live like this. We're meant to live freely. Everyone's definition of free is different. This person that I spoke to that sent me this message, she was saying that she wants to just be free. And I totally relate 100% to every single word that she said in that message, because I felt the same way. I was constantly saying to myself, oh my God, I just want to be free. I just want my life to just be chill. I don't want anyone telling me what to do, what not to do. I want to do the right thing and be a good person, but I also don't want to feel guilty for everything I decide to do in my life. And that is what made me leave. I knew I had to make a choice. I can't want to get to point B and stay at point A. I needed to leave point A in order to get to point B. And that's exactly what I did. And so even though it feels hard for you, whoever you are watching right now, and you're relating to everything I say, and you're thinking to yourself like right now, like, oh my God, this is exactly what I'm going through. This is exactly what happened to me. Where you are right now in your thoughts is the truth. If you feel uncomfortable about the church, that is the truth within you. This church is not the truth. The only truth that lives in that church is the truth that lives within you, because you're in that church. And that truth is your instinct, your intuition, and you need to listen to it. You don't need to leave church altogether or religion altogether, but you do need to leave that church if that church is not serving you well. You don't want to absorb any negativity, and that church has a lot of negativity, and it's hidden beneath all the fake positive with the Bible and, oh, we love you, we just want to see you get to heaven. That is a huge cover up. It's like a freaking scheme, and it works. It works, honestly. It works perfectly. I give it up to them because they are really good at it. But you know what you need to do, and you know that you need to leave. And I am not telling anyone what to do. That's one thing I do not do on YouTube. I don't do that in my life. I don't do that with any of my friends. I never tell people what they need to do. I tell them that they need to make a decision. And I respect it either way, because we all need to make our own decisions no matter what our experiences are. But if you feel like you need to do something, then maybe what you need to do is leave. And you need to really think about it. And you cannot allow fear to stop you. The longer you stay, the harder it is to get out, because the more intense the fear becomes. And they will know that you're thinking about leaving. They will see it, because when a person is a part of this church and they're thinking about leaving, they tend to kind of give off certain signs. You can sense a person's uncomfortable. They knew that I had doubts before I ever told anybody. Before anyone ever knew. And that's why they put me in all these freaking classes, this women's group and freaking recovery group and all this crap. I know it's hard. Trust me. I know it's hard. I cried when I left. I cried when I left without friends. My friendships were not intact when I left. I cried and I was scared. I was scared of hell. I was scared of something bad happening to me. I was scared of something bad happening to my husband. I was scared of something bad happening to my kids. But I could tell you now, I feel fine. And I'm glad that that part of my life is over, because now that is just a chapter in my life. It's not my entire life. And you can get through it. It doesn't matter how long you've been in there for 1 year, 14 years, 30 years. It does not matter. It's not gonna be easy either way. But either way, you deserve freedom. You deserve to feel free. And you deserve to make your own choices and to not have to be put down every time you decide to be yourself for 1 damn minute. Every time you decide to make a decision in your life that you have every damn right to make. Whether it's what classes to take and what days to take and what time to take the classes in school. Deciding on whether or not to take a job offer or to start working on certain days. Even though the church tells you not to, because you gotta be available like 4 days a week for these people. You decide that. I have playlists on my channel for a whole bunch of different things, topics relating to the ICOC. So I really suggest that if you're in the ICOC, you're thinking about leaving, skim through my playlist. I have different videos where I talk more about my personal experience and how I left and all these different things, because there's so much that could go into this. If you want to talk to me, just send me an email, shoot me a message, and I do sessions. If you want to talk personally to me over the phone and you need some detailed advice about something, you can find information for that on my website. I love you guys all so much. Thank you so much for watching.